Hey, Coach, welcome to our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe down below and click up above. That way you'll be notified of everything that kind of comes through. If you're looking to win championships, if you're looking to have a messy basement like this, but a basement like this, go down over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. It's the resources, it's mentoring, it's the one-stop shop for basketball coaches. Go over and check it out. Have a great day.
Welcome back to another episode of Coaching Youth Hoops. I'm your host, Coach Bill Flitter. Today we are joined by veteran and I guess a guest of the show, two-time guest of the show, Coach Powers. He's the
Yep,
boys coach over at Acalanes High School in the Bay Area. Coach, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Anytime I have a chance to talk basketball is a
It's a
good
good
time
day,
of the
right?
day. So I'm very excited to be here, honored to be on your show.
Coach, you started coaching 30 years ago, and you've been teaching for 29. Did you learn a few things along there, or you
I'm trying to. I'm still learning. I'm still learning, and
right?
yeah, I think if hopefully anybody that's listening to this will be able to take that with them. That just don't stop learning. There's so much that we don't know
Yeah.
that we could all probably fill a big arena and just be open to that. But yes, I have learned some things along the way too.
Well, we're definitely going to dive into those. And one of the things we want, we got together again because I just wanted to get an update from you. And, it's always great to have a veteran coach on the show to teach us young guys, all the, so basically, so we don't make the same mistakes, right? That's why
Yeah,
we're here. But, I wanted to dive into this idea of the mentorship in basketball that you brought up to me because I think it's really important. And, if you think about like a typical high school basketball player, they may have multiple influences, we'll call them, right? Parents, their high school coach, or even their grade school coach. And then the third one is, any AAU program they're on. That's a lot of voices in a young person's head. And, hopefully they're aligned, but I am sure, as you know, and you've experienced, they're not always aligned. And the question is, how how can we, as that young person's growing mind, help him develop with all the different
yeah. Well,
voices?
I
You
think
know,
yeah. Well, I can appreciate you bringing that up because I just had a conversation with a player last week, and I made that very statement. I know you have a lot of people that you're listening to.
hmm
As the high school coach, I am not the sole, contributor to his improvement. He's hearing from a lot of different people. So I think um, I think as much as like for the high school coach
hmm
to align themselves with the AAU coach, and for the AAU coach that's listening, I think it's important that they try to reach out to the high school coaches that their players are feeding into, because it doesn't do the athlete much good if he's getting a lot of different ideas. That doesn't mean they have to be completely the same, but I think just developing that relationship with the AAU coach as a high school coach, or the AAU coach developing some type of relationship with the high school coach really is helpful.
Yeah, and
And I
again,
think
this is
also communicating with parents.
yes, absolutely. This is an ecosystem, and I've been in situations where, you know, the girls that I train in my area, they're going to go on to typically, two different high schools for the most part, maybe three. Okay. One of them being yours, and, then we got Campo and Miramani. And then there's, of course, a few outliers from there. But, I always make it a habit of reaching out to the coaches, right? Just to say, hey, you have these X number of players, here's their strengths. What do you want me to work on, right? They're coming into your program.
Yes.
What's your philosophy? What's your teaching? Because as an AAU coach, I don't have, and maybe I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, but I don't care because I approach it differently, right? I'm thinking about the child. What's best for the child, right? This coming up. And I want to teach them the basics. As I always tell my kids, I don't, yes, we have a set offense, but it incorporates so much that it doesn't matter what you play in high school because you're going to use these tools that I'm teaching you and whatever offense your coach wants you to run. So I think it's just important as an ecosystem we work together versus keeping this thing in silos or even, I've gotten snubbed by some high school. I've been a high school coach, right? I've been a high school coach at some of the best programs in the Bay Area too. And it's like, oh, you're just a fill in the blanks, right? That's the
Yeah,
attitude that
right.
I get, which is, that's not the way it should be.
No, and I think that the idea, and certainly you can't coach if you have 10 girls, they go to three different high schools. You're not going to be able to,
Yeah,
help everyone specifically, but
correct.
it
Yeah.
is a different deal for you because as an AAU coach, you really are, working just solely for the kid. Like you made that point, like you don't really care. Like you're just trying to help develop the player that you have. And it's different for a high school coach because a high school coach is working for his or her program. So that even just in uh, at the baseline level, an AAU coach and a high school coach have, um, they're working for different groups. Like you, as a high school coach, you are
Right.
working for and wanting to help each individual player, but you're also trying to build the high school's program.
Yep.
Whereas a AAU coach, it's a little bit different where, you have a closer relationship with each of the individuals. Um, and so I think just putting that on the table and realizing that there are differences, and the more this, I think, adds to the communication, that it just helps. Ultimately, it helps the player
Yeah.
because the worst case situations are when the high school coach and the AAU coach are just so far apart, or the AAU
Yeah.
coach comes and watch the kids play in high school and you know what's going on, and this coach doesn't know that, and that and maybe somebody feels good when they say that in the moment, but really who is getting hurt is the player that's caught in between because they're trying to do right for their AAU coach, they're trying to do right for their high school coach,
Yeah.
and the closer the relationship you have between the high school and the AAU coach, you cut a lot of that stuff out, which is really only an ego. That's only an ego thing that why coaches might even come into a gym and say something like that.
Yeah.
So as we want our players to put their ego aside. Coaches, we have to do the same thing. And my ego, my ego certainly allows me to have my players play for other coaches. I think it's a good thing that they're playing for other coaches. I respect the coaches that they're playing for, and I do take time to try to build relationships with those people.
Right.
Um, and yeah, at the end of the day, we are trying to help make the most healthy, functional situation for the athletes that are in our programs, whether it be
Yeah.
AAU or whether it be high school.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. We got to put the focus on the players, right? Not on ourselves. Uh, yeah, as we're talking about, mentors and being in their ear, there's some situation, and our area as well as I do. It's like you can easily go from one school to the other, right? So it's not that difficult for a student living or a child living in, my town of Moraga to go to Acalanes, although they should go to, Miramani or whatever, right? So with that being said, it's, you know, they'll ask me, from a player perspective, right? Or from a team
Mhm.
perspective, where do you think I fit in the best? Or questions like that, right? They'll ask me, and of course, I'm always delicate with that situation, and I ask them lots of questions back about, well, what are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? What about academics? Where does that fit in? Are there, so don't make your decision based on the team, because one, your career could be cut short for whatever reason, and now you're going to that school where you may not fit into the community, or your friends are going to a different school and you only had your basketball friends that went to
Right.
that school, you know what I mean? So, um, it's again, it's an ecosystem that we just all need to participate in, with the focus on the player. But let's dive into your values. So I'm assuming 30 years coaching.
I just say
Or
one other thing about the
oh,
mentorship.
oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah.
Just I just it is. I just think for a beginning coach that's listening to this, an old coach that's listening to
Yeah.
this, having people that you can reach out to that will give you constructive criticism, that aren't
Yeah.
just there to stroke your ego, is imperative. Find somebody, and they're out there. Even if you don't have a large group of coaches that you have, that are within your reach, it is amazing how many people would just, if you reached out to somebody that you like, that their style or something about them, and you don't even know them, if you reach out, chances are very good that they will reach back to you.
Hmm.
And I think if you don't have somebody that is experienced, then that is helping you, then where would a coach get their, where are they going to get their feedback in regards to whether or not they're doing a good job?
Yeah.
And it's not just wins. There has to be more to that. So I just encourage coaches to find somebody and reach out and be willing to be coached. And I think they'll find that they will be more confident. They will improve as a coach. And as much as we can be introspective, retrospective, I think we're doing our teams, our programs, our community a really good service to be that
Yeah.
type of coach.
And also it's funny you mentioned that too, because one of the other groups that I guess I invite into quote unquote my circle of trust, is are a few key parents who, one, I trust their opinion, or I know that they'll at least have the right intentions in mind. Even they're a little bit biased towards their own child, so you can't obviously just have one parent's perspective. But I do engage with them quite a bit, either at practice, or after or outside of practice, to just, you know, to ask them questions about style or
Mhm.
communication, or not necessarily the basketball stuff, but all the other stuff that's involved. And I think that's important too as a coach. And that's why we do these podcasts too, right? If you're, this particular one, we appeal more towards, the grade school type coach, teaching younger kids. But it is, there's a lot of coaches that want to coach in high school that listen to this. B, everything you say, so far and have said in the past on this show is, I can take that as a grade school coach and use that advice as well. So it's having these types of conversations that I think are crucial, to the development of the kids.
Well, and for the listener, that we, like you mentioned, that I am a high school coach, and that's what I've done for 30 plus years, but I'm also currently coaching my son, who is in 11U AU, and I've been coaching that
Mm-hmm.
group, NorCal Elite, for 3 seasons now. So I was with 9U, 10U, and now 11U. So I'm right in the heart of grade school youth coaching, and a lot of what I teach and the other coach that I work with is how do you develop players that will be a good high school player, like
Yeah.
somebody that is aspiring to what are the things, even yesterday in practice, like the things that I'm talking about to the group is how they run over to a coach, how they stand in front of a coach when he or she's talking. Do they lean up against the wall when the coach
Mm-hmm.
is talking at the end of practice? To which I'm always, you're not leaning against the wall. So it's just as a youth coach, it's not just basketball, it's not just dribbling, it's not just shooting. It
Absolutely.
is listening. It is your body language, how you present yourself. And so I think that I look at it, having done it so long in high school, I know what the high school coach is looking for. Um, and so I think that's where if you get mentoring, if you connect with somebody or you connect with the high school where your kids are going or multiple high schools, I think you'll hear information beyond just, yeah, we want you to teach them how to dribble. Because
Yeah.
frankly, I think that stuff has a ceiling. There is a ceiling to how well you can shoot, dribble, pass, see the floor, those things like that, where there is that ceiling gets risen when you start adding in your attitude, your effort, your eye contact, whether you're a great teammate. Those things now take whatever skill level, and now you become even better, more valuable than you would be if a young player wasn't hearing those things. And
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
that's
I,
what I would encourage the youth coach to make sure that they're also spending time on
yeah.
just
And
the things that help
right.
players learn.
Yeah. The little things. I had my big thing recently with, especially with my 10U team is, I'll blow the whistle and they'll walk over. I'm like, what do we
Hmm.
like? I'm not waiting for you. Like, when I blow the whistle, you come running over. And I explain why. Why
Right.
is that important? It's not just because I'm trying to be, this authoritarian. It's like if this were a game and we called a timeout and you're walking over, I'm losing 10 seconds of my 30-second timeout, right?
Right.
And then you're going to get
Exactly.
water and then you're going to, right? And then, you know, so, you got to sprint over, right? We're in training. Or the the one that got me yesterday, I have in kind of the other way, I've been coaching this as a 14U team. I've been coaching them for several years and they get to the point where they get comfortable with you, right? And to almost to a point where it's too comfortable and they I had 10 girls. And we were struggling with Indian bound play. So I had 5 on 0 on a shell drill, right? And then 5 were sitting on the sidelines or baseline. Well, I turned my back because I'm focused on the court. They're sitting down chatting with one another. And I'm like, no way. Like, no,
Yeah.
this, right? I'm like, hey, up and on the baseline because you're going to learn something just by listening to me that I may not say when your group is up. Right. So little things like that you have to
Well,
teach them.
well, you saying that, and this is hopefully a takeaway that somebody doesn't have yet as their part of their coaching bag would be that is such an important thing that you're teaching their bill. Like they have to understand if I'm talking to one player, I'm talking to everybody.
Yeah.
And that needs to be reinforced because if it's not reinforced, then, that whole idea, whatever you do regularly, then it just becomes a habit. So
Right.
then if they're
Yeah.
standing on the sideline
Yeah.
and they're not listening, and really what you're doing is you're preventing some future bad situation in a practice because there's, there are a couple things that really kind of are going to be pet peeves to coaches.
Yeah,
And one of them is when you are correcting something and then somebody comes on the floor and makes the exact same mistake that, you know, Bobby or Sally just made. And if you can teach them at 10U or still 14U or at a lower level, a younger age, that this is really important to you. Like this will help you. This will save your teams from a bad practice.
yeah,
Those are the things that get you on the baseline and make a coach run because you're not listening. So if you, in your program, whatever programs these coaches are a part of and coaching in, if that can be the things that you're looking at, you're helping that kid. Like now they go to a high school and the kids on the sideline are actually listening because they realize that he is or she is talking to me as well as the person that is
that's
being
right. Yeah.
focused on.
Well, let's dive into values. You know, every coach and especially high school coaches, they have their set of values that they share with their team. And I'd love to understand over the years too. So when you first started coaching as a young coach and up to today, how have those values changed if they have, or there's still, is there still a core value that you're carrying with you for 30 years?
Yeah, a great question. And I'd like to think that one of the core values is just the idea of being a great teammate. That is something, and that's on all of our. It was something in my earliest days, and today it's basically on every scouting report at the end of the report. It will
Hmm.
be a great teammate and make tonight a great experience for your teammate. And it's just the beauty of the game when people are connected together is, it's what makes basketball such a beautiful sport. So that is one of the core values that we have is just working hard at being a great teammate.
Yeah.
Um, Another value that has wasn't so much early, but is much something that we focus on a lot more, and that's just the idea of listening,
Hmm.
and being a great listener. I say it at the end of our banquets when we at the end of the year when I have everybody together and you have the opportunity to sort of make a statement about what you're looking for in the future, young kids that want to continue on in the program. And it's basically two things, and that's be a great teammate, as I said, and be a great listener. Because if you're a great listener, then you will hear the things you need to hear to be a better player. And then if you're a great teammate, then as you excuse me, as you understand what it takes to be better, now you bring people along with you. Now you help your team. Now you're somebody that people want to play with. So it to me, it's kind of as simple as those two things. Like if you're a great
Hmm.
teammate and you're a great listener, everything will shake out as it should. And being a great teammate is not just waving a towel or slapping five. Being a great teammate is getting into the gym and doing the work when nobody's watching so that you're getting better, so that in a month, 2 months, 6 months, you will show improvement on the court that then helps everybody, helps the coaches, helps their teammates. So I think it's important to kind of dissect that. Okay, what does that mean to be a great teammate? And what does that mean to be a great listener? And just create that list. And from there, those are the things that you want to make sure that you're teaching to on a daily basis
Yeah. And reinforcing those and yeah, yeah,
and
absolutely.
reinforcing those. Yes.
Yeah, well, and like you said, I think what's really important is the definitions of those, right? What does it mean to be a great teammate, or what does it mean to be a great listener, right? And drilling into the details and Because otherwise we have our own perceptions, right, of what being well, I give them high fives and I show up for practice all the time. That's a good teammate, or I'm
Yeah.
always, doing X, Y, or Z. But in your mind, like you said, I think what's important too is like, no, being a great teammate is you're putting some extra work in. So when you do show up to practice, you're going to be well prepared, as an example, right?
Yeah, because it's not just for you. All that work isn't just for you. All that
Right.
work is for anybody that's going to play with you, anybody that's going to coach you. Um, so it's yeah, that is. I like what you say as far as like creating your definition, and
Yeah.
and you're right. It's not cookie cutter, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't get on here and say it has to be these five things. But if you're a coach and you're like, okay, I hear that, and yeah, it makes some sense. Well, then take the time, get in a journal, write out what a great teammate would look like. What does a great listener look like, and go from there. And I as we try to develop these characteristics, I think it's important also to figure out what is going to need to be unlearned and what are the things that we don't
Yeah.
want to do so that because that's not to go down another path, but one of the things that we have to be aware of is it really is about our helping our players learn.
Yeah.
It's about learning, and part of learning is unlearning. Because for every kid that's trying to be a great teammate, for every kid that's trying to be a every kid that's trying to get better, something has to stop being done in order for them to be able to improve.
Yeah.
Something has to, you know, I'll just say it as I say it and think something has to die. No more. It no longer exists in
Mm,
order to
mhm.
become better. If you're going to cling, and one of the things that throughout this that maybe I'll put in a book plug or an author plug or
Yeah.
another podcast plug, but and one of them is chop wood, carry water, um, and um, the important thing about that book, chop wood, carry water, is that one of the things that they talk about is that you're not clinging to things. You don't want to cling to things. As we cling to things, it makes it hard for us to move forward. Um, and I'm drawing a blank here on the author of that book. I want to be able to. It will come to me, and I will share that because I think that that's a book that um, would be good for coaches to read. It was suggested to me by a college coach, and the thing about chop wood carry water is it really is about just being a servant. It's about
Mm.
being a great teammate. It's about doing things for other people. Um, and then that's where we will gain the greatest amount of pleasure, satisfaction.
Interesting.
This feeling of accomplishment is by helping others.
Joshua Medcalf is the author.
Metcalf, yes,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
written a lot of really good, and they're all kind of written in parables and stories, and
Mm.
um, but that would be if there's a coach that's looking for a book that's going to help him or help his or her team. Yeah, chop wood, carry water.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna add it to my list. The other one that I read recently, well, it's been a while, but again, a parable. John Gordon's book, "Row the Boat."
Yep,
That's another good one, and that came out of the Minnesota Gophers
yep,
football
yep,
coach.
yep.
That's another good one.
And make
Energy
sure
costs
everybody's
less
rowing
money.
the oars in the same direction. Like
That's right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. And you said it. You've got a high school coach in the boat. You've got a AAU coach
Yes.
in the
Yeah,
boat. You've
yeah,
got a
yeah.
parent in the boat.
That's right.
You've
Friends,
got
right?
these
Social
people,
media. Yeah.
friends, social media, and you may have a goal as to where you want to get that boat to get to. But if you're fighting, you know, if one side of the is rowing one direction and the other side's rowing in the different direction, you're not going anywhere. And a quote that really has stuck with me for 30 plus years is John Wooden's "Don't mistake activity for achievement."
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not good enough to be in the gym, either as a coach or as a player, if you don't have an intention. There's something that you want to focus on that given day. So, yeah, just because you're on a boat and you've got all these people in there, you're not going to get where you want to get to
No.
if you've got, you know, people going in different directions. And
No, that's a good analogy. Yeah, no, absolutely right. Uh, I have this question that just came to me, and this isn't a. I don't want it to be a. Uh, this is not a rant or I. But you've been coaching a long time, 30 years, and look back. Your maybe like your first 5 years of coaching, and look at the type of child that you were coaching or young person you were coaching to today's athlete. What what's changed? And it's not a negative. It's, what's the difference between
oh,
those
it's
two athletes?
well, the athletes are different. I will never forget this, and this was, you know, probably 30 years ago,
Yeah.
listening to Bobby Knight, and somebody asked a question similar to that, Bill, and
Hmm.
he said, kids are not different. It's the adults that have changed. And
Interesting.
so he was saying that, you know, from the point when he said that to decades previous, that the kids are still the same, but now the parents and the coaches and the adults in their life, the teachers, they're softening to a degree, or whatever word you want to use, that would
Hmm.
create a change. But the kids are no different. It is not the same now, though. These kids are have so many different influences,
Yeah.
and I know that people will disagree with this statement, and some people want to just say, well, you can't just continue to blame the pandemic. But the pandemic has created a residual in some of these kids' lives that are the age of high school students. When we went through that, my kids were in kindergarten and second grade. And I don't think it affected them that greatly. I think it was, you know, it was an inconvenience.
Yeah.
But to the high school kid who was maybe in middle school, who was having expectations lowered a little bit because you're sequestered in a room, families are just trying to survive. There's no there's no playbook for how do you parent during a pandemic. So I think where kids probably needed to hear
Yeah.
no, where a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old needed to hear
Mm.
no, you know, how do you say no? I'm just trying to survive in a household.
Right.
So, and
Keeping the
that's not
peace,
it's not a
right?
statement of judgment. It's a statement
Yeah.
of survival. It's
Right.
a statement of
Yeah.
survival. So now we have these kids who have, you know, they've that's part of their socialization,
Hmm.
part of their human development.
Yeah.
Was not really hearing no when maybe they needed to hear no, or having the bar raised when it needed to be raised, yet it was lowered just to make sure that these kids were getting through this.
Hmm.
Now you talk about, you know, you add the social media, and
Yeah.
you add this attention deficit that is happening because it's all quick dopamine, it's all just quick hits. It's and there is nothing quick about improvement. There's nothing quick about building a team and
No.
taking a team and making it like there's no uh let's just go to Amazon and in 8 hours, if I'm lucky, it's sitting there on the doorstep. Like getting
Right.
better is
No.
having to walk to a sporting goods store and pick it out and walk. So I think to 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 shorten this to let's get to the point. I think the fact that they see things happening too quickly, or they expect things to happen too quickly, um, and that works against them. You and I, I'm older than you, but still in our generation, things came a little. We understood things coming more slowly,
Yeah. Well, and we talked about
and now
on the
it's.
yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that now and we might have mentioned this in the last podcast, where it's like, okay, you got to work on your rotate, you got to work on something. A kid will take 3 shots, and then how does it look? Well,
Right.
okay, tell me in 997, and now you've got 1,000 shots, and then we can,
Yeah.
or five. So I think they just have this expectation for immediate gratification, which scrolling does for you. It gets you those hits
Yeah.
that make you, you know, but they're short-lived, and improvement is not short. It is long, and it's arduous, and it's tough, and it's filled with setbacks,
It's not
plateaus.
linear, right? It's not
Um,
linear, right? So you don't grow, just because you put the
no,
time in doesn't mean you're going to grow.
no,
You could actually go backwards some and then make,
no, you do.
3x leaps, right? On the next round. So, especially now in the you, I mean, that was a great way of saying it, especially if you think about an AAU program, right? You're paying $2,000 for an AAU program for a season, right? Or a year, or however you want to explain it. But the parent is paying, $2,000. Well, if I pay for anything, I expect a return, right? And a lot of parents think this is a
Yes,
transaction. It's not a transaction, and the brain development and the physical development might not be there for your child during that season, right? And it could be it could be delayed. So thinking
right.
about growth is, okay, I paid you this money, you're practicing X, you're turning up for tournaments, so I expect Y back. It doesn't work that way. And I think that
Yep, yep.
we have to get out of that mindset. But
Well, and
yeah,
to that, and to that, it is, and this is probably as much for parents as it is maybe for a coach to communicate it. In my opinion, and from my experience,
yeah,
that, and now having a son who's playing basketball, and who's 10, going to be 11 soon, um, I'm investing in his experience
yeah,
with the game of basketball.
hmm,
That's where my investment is, so that he improves, so that he can enjoy the game more. Not investing for some outcome 4 years from now that he or she is going to be a college basketball player,
yeah,
because
yeah,
that is uncontrollable. Where the experience of becoming better, and now I enjoy the game more because I am seeing improvement, well, that's going to lead my son or anybody's son or daughter in a path that potentially moves them towards improvement. And then if that improvement ends up with the result of a college, or a college career, then that's fantastic. But if you put that in the front, that's why you're putting all this money, and you're not thinking about their current experience, but you're thinking about some outcome. I mean, it's what we tell our players all the time, like at Akalani's, that you don't want to get connected to your outcomes. You want to connect yourself to the process. I cannot connect myself to the outcomes, because a lot of times I don't have full control over that outcome, but
yeah,
I have full control over the process. People have heard attitude, effort. They're the only things that you can really control. So I think the investment, yes, you're investing, but let's just think in terms of investing so they enjoy the sport more. Then let the sport and their talent and their improvement take them somewhere. Otherwise, I think it's just you're setting yourself up for disappointment and failure when you connect too much with the outcomes. And that could be
Yeah.
with a shot. Just let the shot fly. It feels good coming off your hand. If it goes in, it goes in. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it aligns with the coach's idea of what a good shot is, what a great shot is. If you miss it, and that's to the youth coach also. Like when you see kids miss a layup and go, "Oh my gosh," or miss a shot and have some result, some response that you can see, that kid is connecting themselves to the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's last play. That's not next play speed. So
Yeah.
um, I think all of it is connected, and even going back to where is the kid different? Like you can't hack improvement. There's no hack. There's no shortcuts. There's no,
Yeah.
it's just time, effort, and it's important that the kids are got a smile on their face, and they're learning to find the joy in the game and in the process. And if we spend too much time on the results and the outcomes, then it's harder to find the joy. And
Absolutely.
it's
Well, and it's also the comparison, right? One child versus another, right? You're on a team, so you're seeing how the other players are. And, like as we said before, growth is not a linear thing. So you can't compare your child to someone else's. There's multiple reasons why, right? In the development of their brain, their
yeah.
physical ability, etc. They grow in spurts and both physically and mentally. So it's hard. I get it. It's really, really hard as a parent sitting in the stands and because you want nothing but the best for your child. And and
Yes.
and then but it, anyway, it's hard. It's easier for me to say that, but it's
Well,
hard.
and I think that the beauty of your podcasts and podcasts in general is that you can just go down these paths that you weren't really intending to go down,
Yeah,
right? And that's
exactly.
sometimes
I
that's your
know.
greatest find in the podcast, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
I've coached for so many years without a child. I'm older. I'm 63 years old, but I have young kids, and
Hmm.
so the majority of my career was not with a child that's playing basketball.
Mm-mm.
And so if you're a young coach and you're doing this and you don't have children, you cannot understand how hard it is to be a parent as you
Yeah,
watch your child play. And
yeah,
that's what I'm learning that now, and it's helping me as a coach that it is hard. Parenting is hard, sitting there and watching your son or daughter play the sport, be subject to decisions that a coach is making, being taken out, being not played. You just, you name it. So and let's go back. The parent is in, the grandparent, whomever it is, the guardian is in that boat and is
right.
part of the process of rowing the oar. To disclude them and be like, I'm not talking to parents, or you
Yes,
really
that's
is
right.
not.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think it's. I hate the word fair. Anytime my kids ever say fair, it's, I'm trying to eliminate that word from their language. Um, but I think you have to include the parent. There
yeah,
has to be a parent has to feel like they have a pathway to the coach. And sometimes it's the best person that you could ask. Like you said, sometimes you'll include a
yeah,
parent. Nobody knows your player better than their parent in most cases. So just having some ideology that I'm not going to include a parent in any of the, like, is just you're taking what might be the best person that you could ask to figure out how to better coach that person. Then, and so, yeah, I mean, you have to have parameters and there has to be boundaries,
correct.
and
Right.
Yeah, it would be nice and easy if we could just put blinders up and just, but I think at the end of the day, you're probably hurting the kid, you're hurting the player.
Yeah, no, no, that's absolutely right. And I think I've had situations where a parent would approach me with a situation that was going on in their family, and it made a lot more sense of how their child
Yep,
was reacting on the court, right? And again, I
yep,
don't expect them to share every little thing, but this wasn't a little thing, it was a big thing, right? And I don't want to contribute to that. I want to have that in the back of my brain, right? I want to push them. I don't want to treat them any too much different, but I want to have a little bit more empathy and understanding of maybe, they just don't have it today because of this situation.
right,
It's a balancing act, but it's
right.
something you got to put in part of the algorithm of how you, right, that spits out how you're going to coach the team and
Yeah,
that particular
yes.
player. So again, you can't, a lot of kids come, and I hear this a lot, especially from the older girls that I coach, is this is my escape, right? This is my happy place. I come, I get to hang out with my friends, we play, and this is my happy place for the hour and a half each practice. So, um, let's talk about, you talked about earlier on, you talked about, because I think this is such an important subject, you talked about defining wins and losses. And I look at them one way, and I'm curious, how do you define a win and a loss? Especially in the culture that we live today, and well, do you feel as a coach that you're pressured to win, and has that changed over the years as well? And win in the scorebook, that is, right?
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would say the word pressured, but it also it's consistent with I want this now. I want this, yesterday. I want this improvement to happen right away. Yeah, I think there's some. Um, I think maybe my experience as a coach and working towards improving and building that it's sometimes slower than what you may want it to be.
Mm,
So
mm, mhm.
I think the pressure is to have come quicker. Um, and but I I think that winning and losing it's important to strive for winning. I think there's a scoreboard you want to win, and that's there's nothing wrong with that, but it can't it cannot lead it can't be your lead. I think your lead has to
Mm,
be your values. Your lead has to be the things that are important that are going to transcend a scoreboard. Um, because the scoreboard's going to end, but we spend so much time with them that it's important to get them to. This goes back to sort of that process driven mentality, because the scoreboard, the grade, the GPA, those are two very consistent things that are very similar. They're going to end at some point. And then what you're left with is, what type of person are you? What type of teammate are you? What type of boss, what type of coworker are you going to be? I mean, so those things can't be determined by a scoreboard, by winning or losing. And ultimately, that's what we're doing as a coach. I mean, it's transformational. I like to think of myself as attempting to become better and better and better at being a transformational coach, and somebody that we're changing people and trying to help them develop into the best version of a man, the best version of a woman that they can
yeah.
be when they're done playing, and they can draw back from experience. So um, I just was meeting with a player with exit interviews, talking with players now that for next season that are returning players, and um, you know maybe this is more for the high school coach, but in 20 years when they gather, they're not going to be able to say what their record was.
Yeah.
Like our record was 22-7 this past season. We were 11-1. I think in 20 years, they're not going to be able to say 22-7 and 11-1. But what they are going to talk about is the guys and the locker room and the dinners they had together and the experience of just being on a team.
Yeah. Oh, and you,
And
coach, right?
so
They're going to
that
say,
needs
"Hey,
to,
coach, what's the feeling? What's the feeling you gave them?" Right? You know,
yes,
what,
yes, yes.
so, you know,
And I think this connects to where a question you asked earlier about how is it different? Okay,
yeah.
that 5 years ago, not even pandemic. 5 years ago, there wasn't a transfer portal. Five
Yeah.
years ago, there was not, like this year, where on the first day that it opened up, there were 1,200 students that had jumped into the portal. Okay, that is it all, it all seeps down. And the thing that's most, the NBA and high school basketball, that's apples and oranges,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
College basketball and high school basketball are very much alike, are very similar. It's the closest thing. And so now when you have kids that are going to be transferring, it becomes very easy, or without even knowing it, you feel like I have to win. Because if I don't win, the kid's going to transfer, or feeling like I have to make decisions to people and not decisions to your values as a coach. Because once you start making decisions based on a parent or on a kid, hopefully this kid's not going to transfer, so you coach them in a certain way. Well, now you're going away from the values of be a great teammate, be a great listener, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
once you start going to people, people are going to change as the wind changes sometimes, but you got to be rooted in something. And so, yeah, winning, losing is taking on a different meaning, because I want to go where they're winning. I want to go where they're
Right.
already winning. I don't want to
Yeah.
just help build something. I want to, so it, it is a different, it's a different animal now because of this transfer and how much that's happening in college. Um, it We have to be ready for it at the high school, and it happens. It's already happening.
It's already happening. Yeah. Exactly. It's
It's
coming.
probably
So,
happening more now than it did 10 years ago. So, and that becomes harder. And even for myself, as I look at myself as I'm moving forward, and all these years, I'm looking at some recalibration of coaching and making sure that I'm not drifting away from my values
mm,
and moving towards winning as the most important. Like here at Akalani's, we hadn't won a league championship in 18 seasons, 18 years,
mm,
2007. And I'm so proud of the fact that this group has won a league championship and has set us on a different course. But I can't go down this course and be true to my players, the program, the game, if I start moving and thinking, well, it's more the winning than it is about these values, that because the values are things that you're rooted. Those are the things that will ground you. And over time, and if you invest into yourself as a coach and in your improvement, your values are probably not going to be illegally recruiting and treating players poorly,
yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
not going to be your values. Your values are going to be rooted in what transcends the game and what makes them better people. So just stick to the things that make them better people, and over time good will happen, and you'll feel your pillow will be a whole lot softer when you put it on,
Right.
put your head on it at nighttime, because you're teaching to values that are important for the human, not just the basketball player.
Well, what systems or whatever you want to call it have you put into place so that players know that they're valued? They're not just, contributing their athleticism to the program.
Yeah, I think time, talking to the players,
Hmm.
reiterating importance. Sometimes it's coaching the kids that maybe aren't playing that much, coaching them hard at times, so that they know that they're not just being forgotten about, or they're not as their value isn't there. I think it's time and communication that is the greatest system that you can have to know that everybody has a value on a team.
Yeah. It's funny. I was one of the things that, it's like as a coach, like you, I'm always trying to improve. I overthink about, am I teaching them the right things? Oh my gosh, we laid an egg in this game. I blame it on me, like, because I wasn't prepared, so I didn't prepare them, right? And but I had this moment the other day with my with a couple of the players when I knew that, that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is how am I as a coach and overall, and what experience are they getting out of it? And I knew that I crossed this uh, uh, I guess, threshold with them of when they invited me into their world. And what I mean by that is they pulled me aside and said, Coach, will you do a TikTok with us? And I'm like, and at first I was like, I hesitated. Then in the back of my head, I remembered everything I told them. Hey, you got to push your outside your comfort zone. You're right. That, I'm like, oh, I got to listen to my own advice here.
Yep.
So I said yes. And they're like, we'll teach you the dance real quick. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking, I'm not saying this out loud, but in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into here? And they're going to teach me this dance, and I'm an awful dancer, right? All these things are going, I'm never going to remember what I'm supposed to do. Um, but I did it. And I was at that moment, I just realized, like, oh wow, they just invited me into their world. That's huge, right? And I don't say that to pat myself on the back. I say
Yep.
that to, that's that's a win to me, right? That's a huge win that
Yeah.
I've done
Yeah. Yeah.
something
Yep.
positive and changed in their life. And I don't know, that's it was outside of the, you know, wins and losses in a basketball game. So
Yeah. That's cool.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm curious, kind of the last question here. Again, coaching a long time. How have and let's get into the X's and O's. You probably seen the game kind of evolve over the last 30 years. Where has it gone in the last 30 years of what you're teaching now versus what you were teaching then? What are some old thinking that we just have to get rid of because it's old thinking and this is the new quote unquote basketball?
Um, yeah, it's an interesting question. How do we what do we no longer want to potentially teach that have been teaching early on?
Yeah.
Is that kind of where
Yeah, like versus now
what you're
versus
asking?
30, yeah, versus now versus 30
Um,
years ago.
I think one thing that, and it's maybe not just necessarily X and O in the, because I don't think there's a lot of, I mean, basketball is spacing, timing, and angles.
Yeah. Hmm.
Slice it any way you want to slice it. That's what basketball is. Timing, spacing, angles. That's what you're teaching. That's what you're working on. Um, I think that I think coaches have given up some control in the way the game is played, either with the speed of the game, the pace of the game. So I think that I don't know if we do how much service we're doing for a kid if we are controlling every possession, calling plays every
Mm,
time.
yeah,
Because then you're kind of teaching the play rather than teaching them how to play.
that's right. Yeah.
So I do feel like the game has opened up. Don't please no one ever come to me and say Steph Curry's hurt the game. Steph Curry has not hurt the game of basketball because of his ability to shoot the three.
Yeah.
Um, that I would agree with Bobby Knight. If you're letting your kids take bad shots, that's your fault. That's not Steph Curry's fault. Like if you're going to
Yeah.
look at Steph Curry and say he somehow has affected, you mean that is a guy that just watch Steph Curry when just watch him. You know, he's never out of balance. He's never complaining. He plays with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
But the 3-point line has changed the concept of shot selection, and that's a long time too. That 3-point line's been there for quite some time. So I think back to your point. I think that I was more controlling of possessions
Mm,
early in my career, and I'm less controlling now. And I think the game is played at a little bit of a faster pace. So there's a little few maybe more mistakes that are going to happen. So you got to be okay with some turnovers. I don't think you can, it's it's a game of mistakes. So but yeah, I think it's just a little bit of a faster paced game now as I'm teaching it than I would have taught it 25 years ago.
yeah. Yeah. That totally makes sense. And I love the way you summed that up,
I
because it's
would
so
say
true
that's
about,
probably, not,
oh, sorry. The game is about timing, spacing, and angles. I mean, that
no,
it is. And if you can teach that, and you have that lens over the top of the game, it's going to help you be a better coach and teach the game a lot better. All right, last question before we wrap this up. All right, we got a lot of coaches listening. You have a ton of experience. Uh, they're all leaning forward, waiting for the last words of wisdom. Okay, so what is the,
yeah.
and we're going to make this really simple, hopefully. Well, actually, it's harder on you, simpler for us as the listener. What is that one piece of advice you're going to give to a first year high school coach, a dad that's coaching his grade school kid? Because you can approach it now from both perspectives. So, what is that one just piece of advice you would give all of us coaches? Oh, I stumped him. He's thinking now. I love
Well,
it.
for the new coach,
Yeah.
for the inexperienced coach, I think the greatest service you can for your players is to take the time to have an organized practice plan
Mm,
so that you can lean on that plan, whatever it is. Just be confident about what it is going to teach that particular day. Um, because if you have a lack of experience, then the only thing you have to is whatever your preparation is, and those players deserve a coach that is prepared.
yeah.
And so I would say that is that, and there's so many resources today. That's one where the game is so much different. When I started coaching, there wasn't YouTube. There wasn't the ability to just go and put, zone offense and then have all these things that are there available to you. So now it's almost inexcusable to not be prepared coming in to a practice because you've got the resources to put it together. It's just your wherewithal to be able to put it together and make sure it's organized. And that's where get somebody to help you. If you're a new coach at a CYO level or AAU, find that high school coach in your area or find a coach and ask him or her to help you. Hey, take a look at this. Do what we're doing right now in a podcast form by just, hey, can you sit down for a half hour, for an hour? Not many people that I know that would say, nope, I don't, not gonna,
Yeah.
I don't have time. Nope. We have time. It's our responsibility as an experienced coach to grow the game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think if I may just add to that, to the experienced coach or to the coach that's done it for 5 years or more, right? That the two things that I would want them to be, leaning forward and listening to is one, teach and coach to whom the player can be,
Hmm.
not coach to who the player is. You have to coach to who this kid could potentially be. And you got to be fair about it. You got to be reasonable about where they can go and how much time you have with them, but coach to the potential. Coach to the inside every kid, inside every person is a better version. And in so many cases it's just dormant because they haven't had the right person to bring it out. But man, there is a difference between teaching and critiquing. Like, don't be that coach that critiques his team or her team. Like, anybody can critique what they're doing. Figure out a way to teach it so that
Yeah.
you can pull out that better version. And the second thing would be teach intentionality, teach intention. Help your players learn that they have to come in. Well, I put it this way to our kids when they come in for open gym. When you leave the gym today, you're either going to be better or you're going to be worse.
Hmm.
You do not leave the gym neutral. So you have your kids for a certain period of time. When they leave
Good
and walk out of that
perspective.
gym, they're either better or they're a little bit worse. So how do you determine that they can be better? Intention. There has to be a focus on helping them be intentional about the work that they need to do, and then you as a coach being intentional about what you're going to teach that given day, and not just be, well, they're here and they're working and they're sweating and they're running. They might be going in the opposite direction of improvement because it lacks intention. So the most inexperienced coach, get that mentor, get that high school coach to help you do whatever. Put 10 minutes or 15 minutes into figuring out the drills and the YouTube, and then a half hour into making sure it's a good plan. Put more time into your practice plan than actually what you're going to be teaching
Yeah.
within it. That experienced coach to that player that's in there, coach to that dormant version that is just waiting for somebody to help bring it out, and coach with intention and help your players be intentional about their improvement. And there's good will happen.
For
Good will
sure.
happen.
Well, and you're setting me up for a great plug for you if you made it this far and you're a youth coach, and we got practice plans all done for you. So go to coachingyouthhoops.com, and all you got to do is download links to videos. It's all planned, a whole season planned out for you. So you're absolutely right. It's not a shortage of resources; it's a shortage of organization. And that's what we always talk about here. So. Uh, Coach, this has been absolutely amazing. I appreciate you coming back and sharing your wisdom with us, and again, just being a giver and doing what you're doing for the kids is absolutely amazing. And honestly, to be doing it for 30 years, did you ever think that would be 30 years of coaching?
Yeah, no, but it's 30 years feeling like it's year one. Like, it's just, I
So
think,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so excited to keep learning. So be a lifelong learner and coach with a ego that doesn't get in the way. And it's amazing where we can learn.
Yeah.
We
No,
can, we just,
absolutely.
if you have the eyes of a learner, then you'll find it.
Yes. Well,
So thanks for having me
let's,
on the show.
yeah,
I
oh my
appreciate it.
gosh,
Appreciate what you're
absolutely.
doing.
We'll have you back on when you win your second conference and the state title
Got
next
it.
in
You got it.
2026, right? Coming up. So
You got it.
no pressure, coach. No pressure. All
Well,
right.
no pressure. Okay. Thank you very
All
much
right.
for
Thank
having
you,
me.
coach. All
And
right.
if anybody needs any information, they can reach out.
And
I'm willing to help anybody that needs some.
yeah, tell us where they can find you and we'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, you can email me at billpowers2023@gmail.com, and
Perfect.
I will respond. And if there's something I can provide to help, I'm more than willing to do it.
All right, coach, till next time. We'll keep on doing what you're doing. We
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Hey, Coach, so glad you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed it a lot. Actually, if you did, subscribe and like, and then go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better.